a resilient mindset. ISO 22301 is often misunderstood as operational compliance. In reality, it defines executive accountability under disruption, taking into account that in this early 21st century, disruption is the rule of the economic game, and that we front an hyper competition and disruption in the same time. Slide 2. We're going to slide 2. So why this continuity abilities, leadership, abnormality, crisis, or disruption is no longer exceptional. It is structural as we are living in a non-deterministic world. We are living now in a stochastic world. The question is not whether crisis will occur, but whenever leadership is prepared to decide under pressure, temporal pressure, power pressure, market or institutional pressure, then we can talk about resilience or anti-fragility. And research constantly demonstrates that organization with engaged executive leadership in continuity planning recover faster, maintain stakeholder trust, and emerge stronger from disruption, so-called anti-fragility capability. We can also add that this ability leads to innovation because this kind of mindset is adapted to resilience and innovation in the same time. Conversely, organization where continuity is treated as a compliance exercise rather than a strategic imperative or a normative one suffer prolonged recovery times and lack of turnover and reputational damage in several cases. So this is, in this new era, continuity as leadership is a way to survive. Slide number 3. So this ISO 22301 is the internationally recognized standard for this business continuity management system. This norm ensures continuity of critical activities at predefined acceptable levels, but those acceptable levels are strategic decisions. They reflect leadership tolerance for troubleshootings and interruption in the business process. The appliance of such norm 22301 is mandatory for highly reliable organization whose activities put human life being at risk, like aeronautic, pharmaceutical, etc. So the standard is built on the principle that resilience must be embedded into our organizational processes, must be resilient by design. And this framework, this compliance framework, is flexible, allowing organizations to tailor their approach based on the context of their economic area, the risk profile, and strategic priorities. This flexibility makes it applicable across sectors from financial services and healthcare to manufacturing and government. Next slide, please. Slide number 4. I think I can. It's possible that I can. Slide number 4, Gori, please. So This high-level structure embeds continuity into governance, and leadership sits at the core. So without executive ownership, BCMS become just paperwork. So the high level of this structure is the context of the organization, understand internal and external factors that influence continuity objective, determine if the company is a highly reliable organization or not. And then the second point, the executive commitment and the accountability assignment. In other words, who is responsible for the continuity during disruption. We will enter later on the planning of this risk assessment because resilience induced planification of resilience and business impact analysis and continuity strategy formulation, and also workload loss analysis. We will see that later on. Point number 4, support resources. Oh, sorry. Uh, uh, okay. In that slide, business continuity is different from IT disaster recovery because information system is not equal IT. Common misconception. Many organizations mistakenly conflate business continuity with IT disaster recovery. IT recovery does not induce information system or organization recovery because in reality, we need to have a strategic alignment between human resource, information technology, and today with AI. So this is a system taken as a whole. So in a comprehensive BCMS, consider scenario far beyond technology failure externally, but also the capability to consider the organization as a whole system and not only IT. So without IT, it's possible to continue exploitation in a minimum capability, and IT disaster is not company disaster in reality. I think we are, if we could have the slide 5. We can go in others. Okay, yeah. So from risk management to continuity planning, um, the ISO 31, oh, I don't understand how we are. Sorry, Gori, but I'm lost in the slide now because I have not the control on the slideshow. Sorry for that, but Gori, if you can hear me, I think we are. I don't know where we are. Gori, if you can hear me. So business impact analysis force leadership to prioritize. It exposes what truly matters. It makes trade-off explicit. And I would like you to remember that the risk is the combinatory of probability by the consequences of the probability. So it must be clearly understood and assess the real impact in terms of probability and consequences, and then define the recovery priority, let's say the critical part of the business first and the secondary afterward. So when we clearly have the map of the criticity of the activity, we're able to measure the risk sector by sector, and for each sector, define the risk as a probability by the consequences of this probability to measure the impact. So this critically, the business impact analysis must be owned and validated by the business leader. It's an executive responsibility and not delegated. The time recovery, this part is in relationship with the planification, the anticipatory planification. In order to be able to plan, to calculate this recovery time, we need to have a clear conjunction between operational planification scenario by using PERT program, for example, program of evaluation and review technique, and using also the BPMN, the business process modeling notation, and to have a conjunction of the two logigram, the two system, in order to be able to make a planification of the real time, of the actual time for recovery, and then to measure the loss in activities by using the business process modeling to have the clear vision of the lost workload that we have during this recovery. And will be the next point, the recovery point objectives define acceptable data loss or workload loss. And again, this reflects the risk appetite for the company and a problem as a risk and as a project. A risk should be understood as a project and induce business process planification. So we are here with this norm saying that the risk could be a project, and we can conduct the risk management as a new project in the company in order to make the planification and to calculate the workload and the acceptable margin for the consequences. So crisis must be understood another time as a decision environment. Crisis must be treated as a normality and a normality training. Risk could become a culture. So crisis as a decision environment is crisis as a culture. We saw crisis as a project management, crisis as a new culture in the 21st century, in the VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. So sure that this crisis compresses time because we are also in a hyper-competitive world. Information is still incomplete, so we should rebuild information. Emotion increases, but certainly emotion will be well managed by training. And in such condition, decision quality becomes fragile. So that is why the organization must pass throughout resilience to another state we called anti-fragility. Say that a crisis must reinforce the organization, make it stronger from a crisis to another. So time pressure is normal, emotionally is normal. What is not acceptable is when decision is taken misleading by under time pressure or with emotional perception only. So risk is manageable, risk is rational. So preparation is the antidote to panic, and leaders who have researched crisis scenario and writing decision protocol then are familiar and develop this culture and it will be better from a crisis to another. It is very important also to make the stress testing of the crisis scenario, to make the pre-mortem activity, to make training on the risk. And the norm, the 22301, mandates regular exercise and testing to validate the plans, but do not condition leaders for the cognitive and emotional demands of real disruption. This is a personal engagement of the leader in this new mindset that you can encounter for firemen or soldier. They are trained to manage only the risk. So the risk must become the the normal situation, to say it simply. So in that case, leadership as a disruption. So traditional management relies on hierarchy and linear planning is ended. Crisis breaks those assumptions. Hierarchical delay becomes dangerous. So crisis management is a leadership stress testing. Tell me how you manage the risk. I will tell you the leader you are. So this is the point, and it will be the next slide on this. Yeah. So leaders must provide clarity about priority decision and next steps and meaning. People need to understand why disruption has occurred and how deal with this new risk and what does it means for them. Here in the meaning, it's a topos for innovation. It's a new frontier for innovation. The meaning on troubleshooting, the meaning on disruption, and then develop the trust in crisis. Crisis is kind of a forge about trust. The team will be trusted, will be trialed, and build the trust during crisis. So there's three elements: direction, meaning, and trust. Cannot be manufactured in the moment. There are production of a sustainable leadership behavior, organizational culture, crisis culture, innovation culture, and demonstrated commitment to preparedness. Leaders who invest in continuity before crises are far better positioned to provide these elements when they matter most and without any time notice in real time because it's kind of natural. And this means that we should forget the illusion of control. Modern crisis leadership requires rapid loops, distributed awareness, and strategic clarity. Authority must be decisive yet informed. So this illusion of control in the next slide is no longer, so hierarchy and the illusion of control is no longer the point. If we could go to the next slide, please. Gori, may we go to the next slide, please, which is the illusion of control. Thank you. So plans is different from preparedness. Plans allow training, but preparedness is a kind of mindset. And difference also between compliance and resilience. Compliance means regulation and procedure and respect, when resilience is the ability to react under pressure by respecting the rules. So organization often mistake the existence of documented plans for genuine preparedness. This is a dangerous conflation, and this is the illusion of control in reality. Plans are static artifacts when preparedness is a dynamic skill. So they represent assumptions about how disruption might unfold and prescribe responses based on those options. But real crises rarely conform to predicted scenarios. So plans become obsolete the moment disruption begin. Just remember about COVID. And compliance is not synonym to resilience. So the ISO 22301 certification is an important milestone, but it does not guarantee resilience. Compliance demonstrates only that an organization has implemented a management system aligned with the standard requirement, but resilience demonstrates that the organization can actually survive and recover from disruption. So the recovery is the proof that the organization is resilient. So the objective of this norm is not to create the perfect plan, the ideal plan, but to cultivate adaptive capability, to cultivate this new mindset about the risk. Resilience is measured not by the thickness of the continuity manual, but by the speed and effectiveness and accuracy of the real world response. And so this illusion of control means we should have in mind obsolescence of the 20th century habits. It will be the next slide. Yeah. So hierarchical latency are no longer acceptable. The fragmented responsibility within a stupid bureaucracy, administrative bureaucracy, does not meet with this capability of resilience. And the linear planning assumption neither. So first, hierarchical must be flattened for this kind of exercise. That is why I means that risk management must be a project. It's an horizontal project. It's not hierarchical and functional ability. Will be a project management line in the matrix of decision. So decisions flow up and down rigid chains of command, creating delays that are incompatible with the speed of modern crisis. This created by hierarchical latency. The fragmented responsibility, like Herbert Simon said, uh, organization take decision under limited rationality when here we need a clearly rational decision. So organization structure around functional silos struggle to coordinate during crisis. That is why we don't need silo, we need project line for the risk management. And linear planning assumption means that planning in calendar with the Gantt chart is not applicable. We need to use the PERT planification program of evaluation and review technique and to make it run with the risk management and the business process exposure. So this linear planning does not work. We need a dynamic pertification of the future of the planification during the crisis because we are not in a predictable environment. Yes, the 21st, we can pass throughout the next slide because the 21st century is not deterministic, is stochastic. So crisis management must become the rule because this is new normality in reality in a hyper competition, in a hyper volatile world. So resilient organization exhibit leadership characteristics distinctly different from traditional management models. Three capabilities define the 21st century leadership. First, distributed awareness. Secondly, rapid decision loops. And thirdly, strategic coherence. So rather than concentrating situation awareness at the top of the hierarchy, resilient organization distributes sensing capability throughout the organization. Effective crisis leadership compresses the observe, orient, decide, act, the ODA. The orient, decide, act, observe, orient, decide. That must be very fast. The loop pioneered by military strategist John Boyd. Decisions are made quickly because in this new era, a late decision is no longer usable. And the strategic coherence, despite decentralization and speed, resilience organization maintains strategic coherence, taking the target every time, even during the pressure, because everyone understands the mission, the priorities, and the boundary within which they operate. So it's a real project management conduct of the operation. The next slide. So the decision continuity in it is the hidden vulnerability. Operation depends on our decision. So this decision continuity is the first level of continuity. If decision making fails, everything fails. A military troop is a military troop evolve like it is conducted. So the decision continuity is the first continuity to be guaranteed because most continuity plans focus on operational processes, restoring system, relocating staff, activating supplier. These are necessary on the means, but in reality, the decision continuity is the organization ability to make and execute decision during disruption and consider a scenario where critical infrastructure is unavailable, but leadership cannot convene to authorize recovery expenditure, or when or whether where communication system fail and regional manager cannot coordinate response effort fail also. So decision continuity requires several elements and conditions. Clear decisional authorities, accessible leader, redundant communication. This is part of highly reliable organization. Redundant communication is also a communication where all the messages are repeated and confirmed. Succession depth, we were talking about defense in depth with several level of protection and pre-authorized protocol that make teams partially autonomous when crisis occur and avoid micro management during crisis. So organization that overlook decision continuity risk operational paralysis even when physical infrastructure is running. And now it's time to talk about high reliable organizations. There are organizations where failure induce life being lost. It's a case for aviation, nuclear power, healthcare, and military operation. So in this kind of highly reliable organization that I think we should take into example, the first preoccupation is failure. Our first interest is when it fails. How will it fail? We have a clear interest on the failure, on a serious event, on a serious adverse event. We are talking in pharmaceutical and sensitivity to operation, to maintain operation and the commitment to resilience. So we are not talking about only train that get on time, but we are taking particular interest of the delayed train in order to understand how failure works. So that is why I'm saying that failure analysis is part of innovation in reality. And in reality, Most of the time, highly reliable organizations are very innovative organization, but this has a cost. Uh, Ash Arrow spends 20% of their time in this kind of activities and is kind of a risk laboratory. So it has a cost, and another time leader must agree upon spending this time on fiability. So leadership sets the tone for this culture throughout the visible commitment, resource allocation, and personal engagement in continuity activities. And we can go to next slides. I think we are, yeah. So this organizational preparedness is very important, and for sure, if we're taking into example military forces, it's obvious that training is certainly the basis for the development of such an ability, and make test exercise stress testing, making the pre-mortem scenario. I can talk also about the red team attack. So you ask a part of the team to uh, stress test the organization, to stress test the routine or the IT, and the other team will are in charge to understand what is happening. Also, to have governance routines. This include periodic leadership reviews of continuity capability, the plan B, the redundancy of the leadership, integration of continuity metrics into performance dashboard, let's say KPIs for continuation of activity are very important. The ISO 22301 requires evidence of competence, awareness, and testing. So these KPIs must be inserted in the ISO manual during the audit inspection in order to maintain this qualification. So mature organizations go beyond minimum compliance by treating preparedness as an ongoing capability building effort rather than only an exam or a periodic compliance activity. Is really part of the culture of preparedness and innovation in this kind of organization. And we can go to next slides. So this suspect testing and exercising means we go from theory to confidence, because theory uh, uh, predict all type of scenario with reasonable probability trees. You can build trees of decision or trees of understanding accident, to confidence by testing and simulating and doing this training. So conducting exercise and have a breath, have a good debriefing, allow to have a good return of experience and capture the lessons to learn, and that update and plan procedures. This is part of innovation process, this implementation, and validate the changes with the leaders and train the leaders in the life cycle. Create a feedback loop that drive continuous improvement. But without testing plans, remain theoretical, and this does not work. Without debriefing, lessons remain unlearned. So lesson must be embedded into exercise. Next, I think, and last slide. We go to till the end. So the call to action at the end of this presentation, take ownership on this business continuity, invest in capability, let's say invest in the resilience culture, build this culture every day, every week, and test it to be able to respond to the ISO auditors in order to maintain this ISO certification. Gori, I think my voice is exhausted. I think I can no longer do this presentation. I think we are at the end of the presentation, and for sure we could share the presentation, and I will be happy to answer questions in LinkedIn or by email for those who are interested in this aspect, and we could certainly meet at each other during the next training on this norm. Next slide. And Gori, if you can hear me, yeah, this is the end. So concerning Q&A, I'm sorry, but my voice is exhausting. I'm sorry for this troubleshooting on my voice. I try to be resilient and take example
No,
of it,
Yannick,
but
it's
I'm
completely understandable. And I also wanted you to know that when you were calling out my name, like I did not have access to the bar, so I could not unmute myself. And since there was a timer on the slides, I guess like for some issue, I could not move the slide further. But I'm really, really glad that you were able to, like conduct this session. And it's been like 40 minutes already. So if you would like, I can request the participants to go ahead and, maybe send you messages over the chat box about their questions today, because I don't really want to, ask you to like stress your throat even more. So if that's okay, like, I request all of you to, if you have any questions, then please do not hesitate to reach out Yannick directly in the LinkedIn. I have shared his LinkedIn and I'm sharing his LinkedIn once again. And yes, like Yannick, thank you so much. And we look forward for your another session. And yes, I have few announcements to make. So allow me a minute as I share my screen.
Thank you.
So tomorrow we will be having Carlos Durigan, and he will be giving a session on aligning AI strategy with business goals using ISO 42001. So make sure you're part of it as well. And yes, GSDC is also offering the certifications for the ISO, and all those who are presented here are getting a 20% discount for this. So make sure that you're grabbing this opportunity. And GSDC has also launched a utility tool where one can strengthen their professional presence, validate what you know, and open doors to global opportunities. You're getting it for 100% free. All you have to do is use code AUG100, and yes, you get the discount. And we are having amazing women leading the AI powered enterprise session going on in this on the 2nd to 6th March. So make sure you're registering yourself for these events. And yes, we also have AI in action sessions going on this week. So if you would like to be a part of it along with the learning and development sessions, make sure you're grabbing the opportunity. Now it's time to celebrate our referral champions, Astik Saxena, Rakesh Ranjan, and Bandi Hemant. If you would like to earn the vouchers for $400 from GSDC, all you have to do is invite your community and co-workers to one of these sessions, and they will, as soon as you start to climb up the leaderboard, you will earn the vouchers for $400. And if you would like to be a part of any of our learning capsule, webinar, and podcast, you can reach out to me on gauri@gsdccouncil.org, and I'd be happy to get you started. And lastly, we would love to connect with you. So make sure you're following us on LinkedIn. You can visit the website for more details. You can join the exclusive WhatsApp group. And if you could kindly share your session takeaways and learning outcomes on reviews.io, that we would be delighted to read them. With this, we're coming to an end for today's session. Once again, Yannick, it was wonderful having you. And yes, I'm sharing Yannick's LinkedIn once again over the chat box if you have any questions, or if you would like to directly get in touch with him, or even if you just want to give him a follow. That would be something that we will all appreciate. And thank you so much, Yannick, once again. And we definitely look forward to your session once again in the future.
With pleasure. See you. Bye-bye. I go and cure myself.
Sure.